My operations manager told me to just keep learning after 13 years of preventing catastrophic production failures. He never saw coming, dismissing my promotion request without understanding that my specialized knowledge was the only thing standing between smooth operations and complete manufacturing collapse. My name is Aaron Vale, 41 years old, senior process engineer with 13 years maintaining critical manufacturing calibrations, vendor relationships, and production protocols that existed only in my personal expertise and completely undocumented knowledge base. The rejection came during our annual performance review on Tuesday, March 14th at 3:30 p.m. in Curtis Fleming's office. I had requested promotion to engineering supervisor based on 13 years of preventing equipment failures, maintaining vendor relationships, and troubleshooting production issues that would have cost millions in downtime. Curtis Fleming, 46 years old, had been promoted to operations manager 2 years earlier from a project management background that emphasized planning and coordination over technical expertise. His understanding of manufacturing operations was theoretical and administrative rather than hands-on and practical. "Aaron, I've reviewed your promotion request," Curtis began while scanning my performance documentation without apparent comprehension of the technical achievements listed. "Your work has been solid, but I don't see the strategic leadership qualities we need in supervisory roles. The characterization of my work as merely solid revealed fundamental misunderstanding of what I actually did every day. My responsibilities extended far beyond routine process engineering into critical areas that prevented the catastrophic failures Curtis never noticed because they never happened. Curtis, I've prevented 4 major production failures this year alone," I explained, while maintaining professional composure despite growing frustration with his ignorance. The calibration protocols I developed saved approximately $340,000 in potential downtime and quality losses. His response demonstrated the disconnect between administrative management and technical operations. "Aaron, preventing problems is expected in your role. I need to see proactive, strategic initiatives that demonstrate leadership potential beyond your current responsibilities." The irony was devastating. Curtis wanted to see leadership initiatives beyond my current work, not realizing that my current work was preventing disasters he couldn't recognize because his project management background provided no framework for understanding equipment, calibration complexities, or vendor relationship management. "What specific areas should I focus on for future consideration?" I asked, while already knowing that Curtis couldn't articulate meaningful development goals because he didn't understand what I actually did or why it mattered. "Just keep learning, Aaron Vale. Not this year," Curtis concluded with dismissive finality. "Show me strategic thinking and broader organizational perspective. Develop your leadership skills beyond technical problem solving." The phrase "just keep learning" after 13 years of mastering irreplaceable technical expertise revealed such profound ignorance that I made an immediate decision about my future with the company. "I understand," I replied calmly while standing to leave his office. My measured response concealed the resignation decision I had just made internally, but wouldn't formally announce until I was ready. What Curtis didn't realize was that his dismissal had triggered my withdrawal from the informal knowledge sharing and relationship-maintaining activities that prevented the production disasters he considered my expected responsibilities. I left his office at 3:47 p.m. and returned to my workstation, immediately ceasing all discretionary knowledge documentation, vendor relationship maintenance, and proactive equipment monitoring that existed beyond my formal job description. That evening, I left the facility at exactly 5:58 p.m. rather than the usual 7:15 p.m. when I finished preventive calibration checks and vendor coordination calls. My on-time departure marked the beginning of strict adherence to official responsibilities only. The weekend provided time to update my resume, contact recruiters, and identify competing facilities that might value my specialized expertise. Professional networks that I had maintained through industry conferences and technical associations. By Monday morning, I had scheduled interviews with 3 competing manufacturers who specifically sought process engineers with calibration expertise and vendor relationship management capabilities. opportunities that would provide immediate recognition and compensation for skills Curtis dismissed. Monday evening at 5:58 p.m., I left on time again, ignoring the equipment calibration schedules and vendor communications that typically occupied my evenings. Systematic withdrawal from the invisible work that prevented visible disasters. Tuesday marked my third consecutive on-time departure. Precisely 72 hours before the night shift would discover that critical equipment calibrations had degraded beyond operational tolerance. Timeline that would expose the dependencies Curtis never understood. I smiled while walking to my car, knowing that by Thursday evening my phone would show dozens of missed calls from the production floor, and Curtis would finally understand what "just keep learning" actually cost the facility. Have you ever smiled while leaving work exactly on time, knowing that within 72 hours, the people who dismissed your expertise will desperately need the knowledge they told you to keep developing? My journey with Precision Manufacturing Solutions began in June 2012, when I joined as junior process engineer for their automotive components facility, a 340,000 square foot operation producing precision machined parts for major vehicle manufacturers. The facility had been experiencing chronic quality issues and equipment reliability problems that threatened major contracts with automotive OEMs. My hiring was specifically intended to address these technical challenges through improved process controls and equipment management. My educational background included mechanical engineering degree from Penn State and specialized training in statistical process control, equipment calibration protocols, and quality management systems. Technical foundation that provided framework for manufacturing problem solving. The initial assignment focused on documenting production processes and identifying quality failure patterns. Standard work for junior engineers that provided introduction to facility operations and equipment characteristics. However, the facility's problems extended beyond simple process documentation. The equipment was aging and temperamental, requiring specialized knowledge that wasn't captured in maintenance manuals or standard operating procedures. Over my first 3 years, I gradually became the facility expert in 3 critical areas that determined production success or failure: equipment calibration protocols, vendor relationship management, and production troubleshooting expertise. Equipment calibration represented my most specialized knowledge domain. The facility operated 27 CNC machines, 14 grinding stations, and 8 coordinate measuring machines, each requiring precise calibration for producing components within automotive tolerance specifications. Standard calibration procedures existed in equipment manuals, but the aging machinery required modifications and adjustments that only worked through trial and error experience. I developed customized protocols through years of experimentation and failure analysis. Specific example: machine number 14, a critical CNC lathe from 2003, required temperature-dependent calibration adjustments that weren't documented anywhere. I discovered through months of trial that ambient temperature variations of more than 8 degrees required specific offset modifications to maintain tolerance. This knowledge existed only in my personal notes and memory. No documentation, no training materials, no backup expertise. When machine number 14 needed calibration, I was the only person who could prevent the quality failures that would otherwise result. Similar undocumented expertise existed for 11 other critical machines. Calibration protocols I had developed through years of diagnosing failures, analyzing patterns, and experimenting with modifications that solved persistent quality problems. Vendor relationship management was my second critical expertise area. The facility operated on just-in-time inventory principles, requiring reliable component deliveries from 17 critical suppliers for specialized tooling, raw materials, and replacement parts. Standard procurement procedures existed, but maintaining reliable deliveries required personal relationships with supplier technical representatives who could expedite orders, solve quality issues, and provide advance warning about supply disruptions. I had spent 13 years building these relationships through regular communication, facility visits, and technical collaboration. Vendors knew me personally and prioritized our orders because of relationship history that transcended formal procurement processes. Example: Our primary carbide tooling supplier, Precision Tool Corp, maintained 2-week lead times for most customers, but provided 3-day expedited delivery for orders I personally requested. Relationship advantage that prevented production delays when unexpected tool failures occurred. This relationship existed through my personal phone contacts with their technical sales manager, not through formal corporate purchasing channels. If I left, that expedited delivery advantage would disappear immediately. Production troubleshooting represented my third irreplaceable expertise area. Manufacturing problems don't announce themselves clearly. They manifest as subtle quality variations, equipment performance changes, or process inconsistencies that require deep knowledge to diagnose correctly. My 13 years of troubleshooting experience meant I could identify developing problems before they became catastrophic failures. Pattern recognition that prevented costly downtime and quality losses through preemptive interventions. Specific capability. I could diagnose grinding wheel wear patterns by listening to machine operation sounds, allowing preventive wheel changes before quality defects appeared. Expertise that existed only through years of experience, correlating sounds with subsequent failure analysis. Curtis Fleming's promotion to operations manager in 2023 introduced management perspective that fundamentally misunderstood technical expertise value. His project management background emphasized planning, metrics, and coordination, rather than hands-on technical knowledge. Curtis viewed process engineers as interchangeable resources, rather than specialized experts with irreplaceable knowledge. His management philosophy emphasized strategic thinking and leadership development over technical mastery and operational expertise. My promotion request was based on 13 years of preventing disasters through specialized knowledge that existed nowhere else in the organization. Value proposition that Curtis couldn't recognize because he didn't understand what I actually prevented. Can you identify situations where administrative managers dismiss technical expertise as routine work while failing to understand that preventing visible problems requires invisible specialized knowledge? The promotion denial on March 14th crystallized my understanding that Curtis fundamentally misunderstood my value to facility operations and would never recognize expertise he couldn't comprehend through his project management framework. His instruction to just keep learning, after 13 years of developing irreplaceable specialized knowledge, revealed such profound ignorance that continuing to provide discretionary expertise would only enable his continued undervaluation of technical contributions. My decision to withdraw specialized knowledge and relationship management activities was immediate and calculated. Curtis would learn what I actually did by experiencing the consequences of my absence, rather than through explanations he wouldn't understand or value. The withdrawal strategy was methodical and comprehensive. I would cease all activities beyond my formal job description, allowing the invisible systems I maintained to collapse naturally under their own dependencies. Equipment calibration protocols I had developed would no longer be performed proactively. I would respond only to formal work orders, rather than conducting the preventive checks that identified problems before they became failures. Vendor relationship management would cease immediately. No more personal calls to expedite deliveries, no more proactive communication about upcoming requirements, no more relationship maintenance that enabled preferential treatment. Production troubleshooting assistance would be limited to formal requests during business hours. No more walking the floor listening for developing problems. No more preemptive interventions based on subtle warning signs. The 72-hour timeline was based on production schedules and equipment calibration cycles. Night shift operations scheduled for Thursday would be the first to encounter degraded calibrations that I normally prevented through Wednesday evening checks. Wednesday, March 15th, marked my first full day of strict job description compliance. I arrived at 8 a.m., departed at 5:58 p.m., and performed only formally assigned tasks rather than the discretionary knowledge work that actually prevented disasters. Equipment calibration schedules existed in the maintenance system, but my weekly preventive checks existed only in personal practice. Those checks identified drift before formal calibration intervals, preventing quality failures that monthly schedules couldn't catch. By Wednesday evening, machine number 14 had experienced sufficient temperature variation that my normal Wednesday check would have identified required offset adjustments. Without that check, Thursday's night shift would produce out-of-tolerance components until the quality problem became obvious. Vendor communications that normally occurred throughout the week went silent. Precision Tool Corp's technical sales manager would typically receive my Thursday morning call about next week's requirements. That call wouldn't happen, and their expedited delivery system wouldn't be activated. Thursday morning, March the 16th, I again arrived at 8 a.m. and prepared for another strictly defined workday. My phone showed 3 missed calls from the night shift supervisor, which I ignored because after-hours communication wasn't in my formal job description. The production floor showed signs of developing problems that my normal morning walk would have identified. Equipment sounds that indicated emerging issues, quality check results that suggested calibration drift, material handling patterns that warned of supply problems. I noticed these warning signs but took no action because proactive problem identification existed beyond my formal responsibilities. Curtis wanted strategic leadership rather than technical problem solving, so I provided neither. Thursday afternoon, equipment monitoring systems began triggering alerts about quality variations on machine number 14. Standard procedure required maintenance investigation, but maintenance technicians lacked the specialized knowledge to diagnose temperature-dependent calibration requirements. I received formal work order at 3:47 p.m., requesting assistance with machine number 14 quality issues. 43 minutes before end of business day, insufficient time for proper diagnosis and correction of problems that would affect night shift operations. Machine number 14 is producing components outside tolerance specifications, the work order stated. Require process engineering assessment and corrective action recommendations. I spent the remaining 43 minutes conducting preliminary assessment, documented initial findings, and left at exactly 5:58 p.m. with the problem unresolved. Standard practice for work orders received near end of business day. Thursday evening, I turned off my phone and ignored any calls from facility operations. After-hours emergency support wasn't part of my formal job description, and Curtis's dismissal of my promotion request eliminated any motivation for discretionary availability. Night shift operations that began at 10 p.m. would face cascading problems. Machine number 14 producing out-of-tolerance components, multiple other machines experiencing undetected calibration drift, and no vendor expediting for tooling replacements needed. Friday morning. The 72-hour mark arrived at 10 p.m. Thursday with me unavailable, equipment failing, vendors unresponsive, and Curtis completely unaware of the production disaster developing under his management. What satisfaction do you find in turning off your phone and knowing that the people who told you to keep learning are about to discover exactly what you already knew? My decision to completely withdraw specialized knowledge and relationship management represented calculated demonstration that managers who dismiss technical expertise without understanding its value don't deserve transition warnings or explanations about systems they never recognized. The ethical considerations were straightforward. Curtis had made personnel decisions based on fundamental ignorance of what I actually contributed to facility operations. His instruction to keep learning revealed such profound misunderstanding that explanation would be futile. Warning Curtis about impending production problems would enable him to continue undervaluing technical expertise while taking credit for whatever emergency measures prevented complete disaster. His ignorance deserved natural consequences rather than protective intervention. The professional implications extended beyond personal vindication. Curtis's management philosophy that dismissed hands-on technical knowledge in favor of abstract strategic thinking represented a dangerous trend that needed correction through undeniable demonstration of expertise value. Allowing the production collapse to unfold naturally would teach more effective lessons than any explanation I could provide. Experiencing $340,000 in production losses would communicate technical expertise value more powerfully than any performance review documentation. My withdrawal strategy wasn't sabotage, it was strict adherence to formal job responsibilities rather than the discretionary knowledge work that actually prevented disasters. Curtis couldn't claim I had violated any policies by simply doing exactly what my job description specified. The 72-hour timeline was based on natural equipment degradation cycles and vendor relationship dependencies, not artificial sabotage or deliberate system compromise. Problems would emerge through normal operations once my preventive interventions stopped. Equipment calibrations exist on monthly formal schedules, but I performed weekly preventive checks that identified drift before quality problems emerged. Eliminating those discretionary checks simply allowed natural degradation to proceed uncorrected. Vendor relationships required ongoing personal communication to maintain expedited delivery privileges and proactive problem-solving cooperation. Ceasing that communication wouldn't damage relationships permanently. It would simply eliminate preferential treatment that formal procurement processes didn't provide. Production troubleshooting normally involved walking the floor, listening for developing problems, and intervening preemptively based on subtle warning signs. Eliminating those activities meant problems would develop until they became obvious enough for formal work orders. The decision to let Curtis experience natural consequences of dismissing technical expertise reflected professional judgment that some managers learn only through painful, direct experience rather than explanations or warnings they dismiss. Curtis's project management background made him fundamentally unable to value expertise he couldn't measure through standard metrics or recognize through visible achievements. Preventing disasters created no visible evidence of value in his administrative framework. My specialized knowledge would become valuable to Curtis only when its absence created measurable disasters. Production losses, quality failures, and vendor disruptions would communicate expertise value through financial impact that project managers understand. The withdrawal strategy also created leverage for negotiating future employment terms. Whether Curtis eventually recognized my value or I accepted positions elsewhere, demonstrating irreplaceability through its absence strengthened my negotiating position substantially. Professional satisfaction came not from Curtis's suffering, but from validating that my expertise had genuine value that deserved recognition and appropriate compensation. Market forces would ultimately determine fair value once my contributions became visible through their absence. The decision to turn off my phone reflected understanding that emergency calls would appeal to professional responsibility while continuing to undervalue my contributions. Curtis needed to experience complete withdrawal of expertise rather than grudging minimal compliance. Have you ever realized that explaining your value to people who fundamentally don't understand what you do is futile, and that demonstration through absence teaches more effective lessons than any explanation? Thursday evening at 10:01 p.m. marked the 72-hour point when night shift operations began. Without my preventive calibration checks, vendor relationship management, or troubleshooting expertise, triggering cascading production failures that would expose every system Curtis had taken. For granted, night shift supervisor Jake Patterson began operations with 17 workers expecting normal production targets. His experience included 12 years of manufacturing operations, but limited technical expertise in equipment calibration or quality troubleshooting. Machine number 14 began producing components immediately, but temperature-dependent calibration issues I would normally have corrected Wednesday evening meant every part was being manufactured outside tolerance specifications. Quality problem that wouldn't be detected until hourly inspection checks. First hourly quality inspection at 11:03 p.m. revealed that machine number 14 components were failing dimensional tolerance requirements by 0.004 inches. Significant deviation that required immediate production halt and engineering investigation. Jake's text to Curtis at 11:07 p.m. Machine 14, producing out-of-tolerance parts. Need engineering support immediately. Production stopped pending resolution. Curtis's response at 11:15 p.m. Contact Aaron Vale for emergency troubleshooting. This is exactly the kind of problem he handles routinely. Jake's attempted calls to my phone went unanswered because I had turned it off Thursday evening. Standard emergency support protocols assumed my availability, but discretionary after-hours response wasn't in my formal job description. Jake's follow-up text to Curtis at 11:23 p.m. Aaron not responding to calls or texts. Need alternative engineering support. Night shift production completely stopped on machine 14. By midnight, additional problems emerged on 3 other machines as calibration drift that I normally detected preventively reached levels affecting quality output. Cascading failures that revealed dependencies Curtis never understood. Jake's escalating texts to Curtis throughout the night documented expanding disaster. Machine 7 now showing tolerance issues. Machine 19 dimensional problems. Machine 23 surface finish failures. Need immediate engineering support. Curtis's increasingly desperate attempts to reach me showed 23 missed calls by 2 a.m. His voicemails progressed from professional requests to barely concealed panic as he realized the facility was experiencing simultaneous equipment failures with no technical expertise available. Friday morning at 6 a.m., day shift supervisor Linda Morrison arrived to discover that night shift had produced virtually nothing usable. 7 machines shut down for calibration issues, $47,000 in scrapped components, and no engineering support available. Her text to Curtis at 6:15 a.m. Night shift complete disaster. Multiple equipment failures. Where is Aaron? This requires immediate executive attention. Curtis's frantic morning included discovering that I wasn't responding to any communications and that facility operations had collapsed without my technical expertise. His project management skills provided no framework for diagnosing equipment calibration problems or restoring production capabilities. Emergency maintenance meeting at 7:30 a.m. revealed that facility maintenance technicians could perform standard calibrations but lacked the specialized knowledge for addressing the temperature-dependent adjustments and custom protocols I had developed over 13 years. Machine 14 requires specific calibration procedures that Aaron developed. Maintenance supervisor explained to Curtis, "We don't have documentation for his custom protocols. Standard procedures don't work on this aging equipment." Curtis's attempt to reach me Friday morning added 15 more missed calls to my phone before the battery died from continuous incoming communication attempts. Each unanswered call represented another moment of panic as he realized his dismissal of my expertise had been catastrophically wrong. Vendor problems emerged Friday morning, when overnight tooling failures required emergency replacement orders. Jake's attempts to contact Precision Tool Corp discovered that standard lead times were 2 weeks, and expedited service required personal relationship with technical sales manager, relationship I had maintained exclusively. "We can provide standard 2-week delivery," Precision Tool Corp explained to Jake. "Aaron Vale typically handles expedited requests through his personal relationship with our technical team. Without his involvement, we process orders through normal channels. The combination of equipment calibration failures and vendor delivery problems meant production would remain severely constrained even if equipment issues were eventually resolved. Cascading dependencies that revealed how extensively I had maintained facility operations through specialized knowledge and relationships. Curtis's emergency meeting with facility management at 10 a.m. Friday morning faced devastating reality. Production was down 70%, quality reject rates exceeded 45%, and the only person who could restore normal operations wasn't responding to communications. "Where is Aaron Vale?" Curtis demanded during the meeting. "Why isn't he here addressing these equipment problems?" Linda's response exposed Curtis's fundamental management failure. "Aaron left at 5:58 p.m. every day this week. After you told him to keep learning instead of promoting him, he apparently decided to stop doing all the extra work that actually keeps this place running. What justice do you find in watching managers discover that the expertise they dismissed as solid work was actually preventing disasters they never noticed because they never happened?" Friday afternoon revealed the complete scope of production disaster as Curtis faced corporate demands for explanations about why facility operations had collapsed simultaneously across equipment, quality, and vendor management systems. Corporate Operations Director Thomas Bradford called Curtis at 2:47 p.m., demanding immediate explanation for why production reporting showed 70% capacity loss and 45% quality failure rates, numbers that triggered automatic corporate escalation protocols. "Curtis, explain the production collapse at your facility," Bradford demanded with barely controlled anger. "These numbers suggest catastrophic systems failure. What is happening?" Curtis's explanation revealed his complete ignorance of what I actually did. "We're experiencing temporary equipment calibration issues affecting multiple machines. Maintenance is working to resolve the technical problems. Bradford's response cut through the euphemistic language. Temporary issues don't cause simultaneous failures across 7 machines and complete vendor disruption. This suggests fundamental operational breakdown. Where is your senior process engineer? The question exposed Curtis's catastrophic judgment failure. Bradford knew facility operations depended on specialized technical expertise, and the production collapse clearly indicated that expertise was absent. Aaron Vale isn't currently available, Curtis admitted, while realizing that explanation would trigger additional questions he couldn't answer favorably. We're managing operations with available maintenance and engineering resources. Bradford's next question destroyed any remaining credibility. Why isn't your senior process engineer available during facility crisis? And why are we just discovering that facility operations apparently depend entirely on one person's specialized knowledge? The answer: that Curtis had dismissed my promotion request and I had subsequently withdrawn discretionary expertise, would expose management incompetence that could end Curtis's career. His silence communicated the disaster more effectively than any explanation. Emergency consultant, brought in Friday afternoon to assess equipment problems, confirmed what maintenance already understood. The calibration issues required specialized knowledge that existed only in undocumented protocols Aaron Vale had developed over 13 years. These machines require custom calibration procedures that aren't in standard manuals, the consultant explained after 4 hours of assessment. Someone with deep facility-specific knowledge developed workarounds for aging equipment problems. Without access to that person or their documentation, restoring normal operations will require extensive trial and error experimentation. The consultant's timeline estimate for restoring operations through experimentation: 4 to 6 weeks of testing and adjustment, with no guarantee of achieving previous quality levels. Time period that would cost millions in lost production and potentially terminate major customer contracts. Curtis's phone Friday evening showed 79 missed calls from various facility personnel before my battery died completely. Each call represented another moment of panic, another problem without solution, another consequence of dismissing expertise he never understood. Production losses. Friday totaled $140,000 in lost manufacturing value, plus $67,000 in scrapped components. Single-day financial impact that exceeded my annual salary and dramatically illustrated the value of expertise Curtis had dismissed as merely solid work. Weekend emergency operations achieved only 30% normal capacity because equipment calibrations remained unstable and vendor deliveries couldn't be expedited without personal relationships I had maintained, continuing financial losses that compounded Friday's disaster. Corporate investigation launched Monday morning, focused on identifying why facility operations had been allowed to develop critical single point of failure dependencies on one person's undocumented knowledge. Management failure that revealed Curtis's incompetence beyond the immediate production crisis. Linda Morrison's testimony to corporate investigators exposed Curtis's fundamental management failure. Aaron Vale spent 13 years developing expertise that kept this facility operational. When he requested promotion, Curtis told him to keep learning and dismissed his technical knowledge as not demonstrating strategic leadership. The investigation revealed that Curtis had never bothered learning what I actually did, never documented my specialized knowledge, never developed backup expertise, and never recognized that his own ability to achieve production targets depended entirely on my invisible preventive work. Vendor relationship problems expanded over the weekend as multiple suppliers contacted facility management, questioning why communications had stopped and whether purchasing commitments remained valid. Relationships I had maintained that formal procurement processes couldn't replicate. Monday morning production remained at 35% capacity, with ongoing quality problems and equipment failures. 3 days of disaster that had cost $420,000 in lost production value and threatened major customer contracts worth $8 million annually. My phone, recharged Sunday evening after battery death Friday, showed notification of 127 total missed calls and 89 text messages. Communication volume that illustrated desperation while validating my decision to withdraw expertise completely rather than providing minimal grudging compliance. Monday afternoon, I finally answered Curtis's call, listening to his desperate offer of immediate promotion to engineering supervisor, $37,000 raise, and $25,000 retention bonus if I would return immediately and restore operations. His panic was obvious through voice tone. "Aaron, I made a mistake. I didn't understand the scope of your contributions. The facility needs you. Name your terms for immediate return." What satisfaction do you find in listening to someone who told you to keep learning, now desperately offering everything you originally requested after experiencing 72 hours of the disasters you prevented daily? My response to Curtis's desperate Monday afternoon offer was professional and final, reflecting decisions I had made during the weekend while my expertise's absence destroyed facility operations and exposed his management incompetence. "Curtis, I appreciate the offer, but I've accepted a position at Apex Manufacturing," I explained calmly while Curtis processed the implications of my response. "They specifically recruited me for my calibration expertise, vendor relationships, and troubleshooting knowledge." The silence that followed revealed his comprehension that I wasn't negotiating. I was informing him about decisions already finalized while he experienced the consequences of dismissing my expertise. "Aaron, Apex can't possibly match what I'm offering," Curtis argued desperately. "Immediate supervisor title, $37,000 raise, $25,000 retention bonus. That's $62,000 in immediate compensation improvement." My response destroyed his remaining hope. "Apex offered $50,000 more than your panic compensation, immediate engineering supervisor title, and respect for technical expertise that you demonstrated you'll never understand. The position starts next Monday." The financial comparison was devastating. Curtis's emergency offer still fell $13,000 short of Apex's standard compensation, and the respect for technical expertise represented value that couldn't be quantified but mattered more than any salary difference. "You can't leave during facility crisis," Curtis attempted with desperate authority he no longer possessed. "We need transition time to restore operations and document your specialized knowledge." My response was legally precise and professionally devastating. My resignation was effective Friday when I stopped responding to communications. I've been on personal time since then. Your facility crisis isn't my responsibility anymore. The legal reality was that I hadn't formally resigned, but had simply stopped coming to work and responding to communications. Curtis's dismissal of my promotion had eliminated any obligation I felt for maintaining operations during transition periods. Curtis's attempts to negotiate or threaten were futile because he had no leverage. I possessed irreplaceable knowledge that would take months to recreate through trial and error, while he faced corporate investigation of management failures that threatened his own employment. Corporate disciplinary action against Curtis began Tuesday, when the full scope of production disaster and his management failures became clear through investigation findings. Formal reprimand for failing to document critical technical expertise, develop backup capabilities, or recognize dependencies that created catastrophic single point of failure risks. Thomas Bradford's disciplinary meeting with Curtis included devastating assessment. "You told your critical process engineer to keep learning after 13 years of preventing disasters you never noticed. The facility lost $420,000 in 3 days, proving you didn't understand what Aaron Vale actually did." Curtis's management position survived, but his authority and credibility were permanently damaged. Future promotion opportunities eliminated, supervisory responsibilities reduced, and permanent black mark on professional record for the production disaster that resulted from dismissing technical expertise. Facility operations recovery extended through April and May, as maintenance staff experimented with equipment calibrations and developed documented procedures through painful trial and error process I had already completed over 13 years. Vendor relationships required months of rebuilding trust and establishing new contacts after my personal relationships were lost. Standard procurement lead times applied without the expedited delivery privileges I had maintained through technical collaboration and personal rapport. Production capacity gradually recovered to 85% of previous levels by June, but quality consistency remained problematic without my troubleshooting expertise and preventive intervention capabilities. Permanent operational degradation that illustrated irreplaceable value of specialized knowledge. Major customer contracts survived, but required extensive relationship management and quality assurance commitments that strained facility capabilities. Several smaller accounts were lost to competitors who could provide more reliable delivery and quality consistency. My position at Apex Manufacturing provided immediate recognition for expertise that Curtis had dismissed. Engineering supervisor title, $87,000 annual salary representing $50,000 increase from previous compensation, and respect from management who specifically valued technical knowledge. Apex had recruited me specifically for the rare combination of calibration expertise, vendor relationship management, and troubleshooting knowledge. Capabilities they understood were difficult to develop and valuable for maintaining operational excellence. The new position included authority to hire and develop engineering team, budget for equipment upgrades and calibration technology, and executive access for discussing operational strategy. Professional environment that valued technical expertise rather than dismissing it as needing more learning. Industry recognition followed when my story spread through professional networks about process engineer whose withdrawal of expertise caused $420,000 production disaster in 72 hours. Cautionary tale about undervaluing technical knowledge and dismissing specialized expertise. Manufacturing industry publications featured analysis of the incident as case study in technical dependency risks and importance of recognizing specialized knowledge. The Vail case became referenced in engineering management courses about documenting expertise and developing succession planning. Professional conference presentations included my perspective on maintaining technical knowledge, building vendor relationships, and developing troubleshooting expertise. Industry recognition that validated capabilities Curtis had dismissed as insufficient for promotion. My reflection on Curtis's dismissal confirmed that managers who tell technical experts to keep learning without understanding their irreplaceable preventive knowledge don't deserve warnings before the systems those experts maintain collapse naturally through withdrawal of discretionary support. Sometimes the best response to "not this year" is proving your value by taking expertise somewhere that recognizes you've already arrived at mastery, rather than continuing to demonstrate capabilities to managers fundamentally unable to recognize technical excellence. Professional expertise and specialized knowledge create business value that becomes visible only through absence and the catastrophic failures that follow. Curtis learned this truth through $420,000 in production losses, rather than through explanations he wouldn't have understood or valued. If this story about technical expertise prevailing over management ignorance resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button for more stories about specialized knowledge creating consequences. Here on Revenge Tales with Luke. See you in our next story.